Hello, Xers and interwebers. Welcome to an episode of Naive in the 90s, the podcast. I'm Emily, your host. I was a 70s baby, an 80s kid, and a 90s troublemaker. Let's just jump into today's episode. So for today's show, we're just going to go through one of the passages of my book, Naive in the 90s, available on Amazon. And, we're just going to go through it because this passage is one of those that has something in it that I've wanted to address. And again, I did do an end of the book letter, like wrap up of me and my thoughts, when I reread it in my 40s. But it was more of a general letter to myself. I didn't get to address specific parts of the book. I could have, but I think it would have been a little weird. Just, you're at the end of it and then I'm like, oh, in this part, I said blah, blah, blah. It wasn't very cohesive. So this is part of the reason that I started this podcast, was so that I could address certain things, and just get into it, because there are things that just stick in my mind that I don't know, I need them to be talked about. So this is one of them, and this really, I'll be honest, this is one of the things, it really bothers me that this was what it was. But, we'll get into it a little bit more after the passage. So, cool. February 21st, 1993, past midnight, Sunday/Monday. Okay. Much has happened. First, I hate Scott. He's a fucking dick. He treats Kim like a piece of shit. And he's got this mondo fucking attitude. I'll start from the beginning. From February 13th to today, February 21st, we had winter break. And I've stayed over Graham's. It was so cool. Got to use the phone, watch TV, drink soda, eat frozen pizza, see my friends. On Friday, I went out with Rob, Zach, Dean, Ian, and Michael. It was so much fun. Zach drove. He's fucking crazy. We got stuck up like a 4-foot snowbank and all this sorts of crazy shit. I spent pretty much all day with them. Around 8 p.m., Michael got his car. So we went with him, and he's fucking insane too. We jumped a grass embankment, or snowbank in this case, at the high school parking lot. We fucking flew. Then, on Saturday, Ian, Dean, Rob, and Zach wanted me to go hiking with them. They came to pick me up, and I couldn't go, thanks to my mom. But they stayed for an hour or so just to hang out. They asked if I thought maybe Kim wanted to go. So I called her, and she got this attitude, kind of like I'm above them. Actually, she said, "Psh, hiking, yeah right, Kim don't hike." Which, come on, we all know she does. So Rob started to get mad, offended. After all, he's been friends with us for years now. Then Scott gets on the phone and starts to yell at me, screaming all this crazy shit. If any of them touch her in any way, I'll find them all and fucking kill them. I was so confused and started to yell back at him, saying, Scott, they're just friends. They don't want to do anything with her. They just want to go out for a while, like we've done a million times. You should trust them. They are our friends. What the fuck, dude? Calm the hell down. I'm just stating what I'll do if they touch her. Well, that's bullshit. They're just friends. Are you yelling at me? No, I'm just stating something. You can't seem to hear anything else, so I'm using a volume maybe you can. Laughter from the guys. But the whole time, they were just getting pissed and I think hurt by Kim's lack of defending her friends to what looks like a crazy, overprotective boyfriend. So Kim got back on the phone and I asked her what the hell was that, and she goes, I don't know. I'm having the worst day. In this really bitchy voice. Like I'm supposed to feel bad for her and Scott. I cut it short and told her I had to go. The guys left, had fun, called me later, and asked if I wanted to go to the movies. Mom said no, of course. Graham said they could come over. They did. Rob, Dean, Zach, and Ian watched The Doors in the living room. I sat on the couch, and Ian sat with me. I ended up using his shoulder as a pillow. Then he went to the bathroom, and Dean sat down and held my hand. While they were waiting to rewind the tape, Ian and I kind of hugged. I put my head on his shoulder. He held on to me and put his head on mine. Even Grandma said we looked in love or something. I don't know about that, but he is really sweet, and he lives very close by, so that's cool. But I kind of like Dean, too. Ah, confusion. Well, Graham and I thought it was best not to tell Mom, so she doesn't know. It's kind of weird keeping a secret from her, but hey, what are you going to do? Then Sunday, they all asked if I wanted to go sledding, and of course, again, Mom said no. Why does she hate fun? Or does she just hate me having any? So over the phone, we got in a fight. We hung up, my guy showed up, and I was crying. They tried to cheer me up. But whatever, I had to go home. Uncle Tom brought me in the truck. He said if he got the job he wanted, that he just applied for, then I could live with him and Graham. I think that's cool. But I don't know about leaving my family. We might not get along, but I still love them. I don't know. I'm confused. Very confused about my family, my best friend, the guys, love, life, my emotions. I think I'm having a nervous breakdown. God help me. Okay, so let's unpack this passage. Right away, I start in on Scott and talk about how he's a fucking dick and how he treats Kim like a piece of shit. And, yeah, which is upsetting, I'll be honest with you, because Scott was definitely a friend throughout high school. There was not a time even here where I clearly was very not a fan of his, that we were not friends, that we did not consider each other friends. And looking back, that's a little disturbing, especially because we became friends in the 2000s again on Facebook. And even before that, when we would see each other anywhere in town or, in the surrounding towns or wherever in our state, we would always be happy to see each other. Always big smiles, big hugs. He met my kids. I've met his kid. I don't know. But if you read the book and even just hearing this passage, he probably wasn't a great person when it comes to relationships. And I have a lot of feelings about this. And that's why I really wanted to talk about this passage. Because I do. I was in an abusive relationship when I was younger, and it was very bad. Like, it was not good. And it was after this. It was like, senior year, end of senior year, and into, later on a little bit. I feel bad for being so oblivious or passive about how this boy treated my friend and how selfish I sound in this passage. Specifically, the part where, she tells us that she's having a really bad day. And I'm like, oh, well, she's talking in this bitchy tone. Like, I'm supposed to feel bad for her. And oh my God, no, you selfish, naive little girl. That's not. Yeah, she was having a bad day. She was probably being abused. I mean, like, what the hell? Every time I am thinking of this specific entry, whenever I read it, whenever I hear clips of it, it really, like, it makes me want to cry. Like, right now, I will tell you, it's getting to me. Being someone that has been in that situation where my friends and my loved ones didn't see the signs, didn't hear my silent cries for help, to know that I was that person for someone who at the time was my best friend is just, whew, it's not okay. And I really, Kim and I, we never fully recovered. We never became friends again, really, after the book. We were best friends from 4th grade. And it's really sad and it's really upsetting that she was going through this stuff, because post this entry, I did know, and I did find out that he was bad. Even before this entry, I talked about how he would yell at her and call her a slut and all these names, and I don't know, maybe it's because I hadn't experienced it firsthand yet. Maybe it's because I hadn't really seen the abuse, that I was just so dismissive of it. And I'm so ashamed, even 30 something years later, I am so ashamed of how I reacted and how little compassion I had for this girl that was such a major part of who I was. And it's here in black and white for the world to see that I just didn't care. I cared more about my experience and my fun. And it's hard to read, it's hard to see, it's hard to think of, because yeah, she was having a bad day. She was having a lot of bad days. And her saying that, I feel like now in retrospect, is probably her reaching out in the way that only people who are in an abusive relationship know and understand. And I just didn't see the signs, or I ignored them because I was friends with this boy. And I just wanted to go have fun. And I hate that. I hate it. It's one of the things that I regret most in this life, is that one of my friends was in pain, and I just called her a bitch. That's not okay. It's a weird situation to be in, or it's not a weird situation to be in. To be friends or to know someone who's abused someone. Like, if you've not seen it, if you haven't been witness to it, to just be like, oh, okay, well, you're no longer my friend, you're no longer an acquaintance, you're no longer anything in my life. Now I don't feel like that. Now I'm like, oh, if you fucking abuse someone, if I have any whiff of you being a dick in any way to someone I love, I will cut you out. I have no problems doing that. But back then it was just, I don't know. I don't know if it was the normalcy of it, because even when I was in an abusive relationship later on, I remember telling our friends who saw me a day or two after the first time I was abused. I remember telling them about it. They asked about these bruises on my neck because he had grabbed me by my neck and squeezed and then threw me into a bookcase. And I had a cut on my nose. I had bruises on my neck, and I remember seeing my friends, a bunch of them, at this local store, and they were like, oh my god, what happened? And I was just like, oh, don't worry about it. Travis got mad, and I was in the wrong place, and he was drunk, and he reacted, and oh, it's fine, it's fine. And I remember fully believing, yeah, it's fine. It wasn't a big deal. Why are you all looking at me like this? And like they were looking at me like, what the fuck? But just let it go. And I remember just feeling like this isn't that big of a deal. And like now I'm like, why? What the hell? And how many times did I ignore not only my own abuse but others' abuse because I thought it was normal. Like, and what the fuck? How fucked up do you have to be to think that it's normal? Especially because it wasn't. No one thought it was. Like, I mean, not to sound stupid or like whatever, but like there were TV shows and movies and after school specials about how horrible it was if someone hit you, if someone beat you or abused you in any of the ways. Like, we were told it was not right, but somehow, and I don't get it, somehow in my brain, it was just like, yeah, no, this is normal. It's fine. As long as the bruises aren't super bad. And as long as, they say sorry afterwards and they're nice other times, what does it matter? For me, for my friends, because multiple of my friends were abused. Like, multiple of them. And I don't ever remember trying to stand up for any of them. Just like I never had any of my friends stand up for me. And what the hell is wrong with us? I look at our generation and there's just so many things that we accepted as just being part of our lives. And it's sad and it's upsetting, and it makes me realize why our generation is still so fucking messed up. Like, we are so messed up. I love Generation X. I love Gen X. I love the era that we grew up in. I really do, but there were poisons. And there were poisons that were fast acting that allowed us to stay in those situations. That allowed us to judge ourselves and others. And then there's the slow acting poisons that still inflict us now. Why we put up with some things, why some of us have the attitudes that we do. It's just, we were bred and raised in a toxic environment that was presented to us as normal. And we're still dealing with it. We're still dealing with it in so many ways. And trying to improve ourselves, or some of us not improve ourselves, and just being angry, bitter people who lash out at the world and are like, well, I dealt with it, so why the fuck can't you deal with it? But that's not the way that things should be. We should want better for everyone, for ourselves, for our children, for all of them, for everybody. And I don't know. I felt really bad about that passage for a really long time. And I haven't talked to anyone about the guilt that I carry because of this ever. So, lucky all of you, internet. Lucky all of you. Get to hear my unhingedness. But yeah, so that sucked. And I still think of that. And I still see Kim here and there on, social media. We don't have a lot of interaction. We are not really friends still. I think we are, classmate acquaintances at best. And that's super sad, because I have a lot of very good memories of that girl. Our friendship ended not great, but I hold nothing but love for her. And I don't know if she hears this. I'm sorry. I didn't have more compassion, and I didn't speak up when I saw or heard stuff that was bad. And I'm just so glad you got out of that, and I'm so glad that you're just happy and safe and look like you're thriving now, because growing up in friendship is hard, You have these people that are your friends, and it's like they help shape who you are and who you become. And they are core memories of childhood and of teenagehood. And then they become nothing. And that's freaking weird. It's weird. But at the same time, it's like, all these people from the same areas are our friends almost out of default, because these are the people we went to school with. These are the people that we were in clubs with or took lessons with, or whatever the case may be. It's like we were the same age group. We were in the same area. So by proxy, these are the people that you're going to be friends with. And it's hard. It's hard because sometimes, I don't know, sometimes that is enough. We were very different people. And when high school came around, she ended up being way cooler than I was. I was a super dork. I mean, I don't know. But she was way cooler than I was. She was into partying. She was into boys. She had parents that let her do things. She just, I don't know. She was just too cool. And I get it. I wasn't. And it was a bad divide there. 'Cause at one point she tried to have me beat up, ninth grade, and then I guess felt bad about it later, and told me hey, don't walk home today. And I'm like, why? I walk home every day. And she's like, yeah, well, today is not a day for you to walk home. And then had her mom bring me home because I guess she no longer wanted me jumped. And it's stuff like that. She was also the person that taught me a bunch of sex stuff, like conversation wise, but like not in like a hey, this is like this kind of thing. It was more in a shame way, like, oh my god, you don't know what this means, or you don't know what that is. And it was a weird friendship. In fact, we met in 4th grade. She was the new girl. And I don't know why, but like we used to fight. Like I would say fist fight, but that's not what we did. Like I specifically remember in 4th grade, at the end of the day, we would line up in bus lines in the classroom, or if you were a walker, or if you were pickup, or, whatever the case may be. And I was lined up against the blackboard, and she was lined up against the counter, both on opposite sides of the door. And I don't even remember what we were fighting about, but we just started yelling at each other. And then we were at each other, like clawing, like such a girl fight I think about now, like clawing and like scratching. And I don't even know. I don't even know how that ended. I don't know how it stopped. I don't know how we got past it. Just the next thing I know, we were going over each other's houses every weekend. And it was just, and then we were inseparable for years until we weren't. But yeah. Ugh. Oh yeah, that's the thing that I've really wanted to address since I reread this and since I started this entire project years ago. I really just I don't know, I'm having the worst day when she says that, and then I'm like, I'm supposed to feel bad for her and Scott. Like, oh, what a fucking little selfish, blind little girl. No, you're not supposed to feel bad for her and Scott. You're supposed to see that your best friend is struggling. That's what you're supposed to see. And, yeah. So, anyways, that sucks. The rest of the passage, I will say, I remember this weekend very clearly. I remember being in the car with the boys on a winter, evening, day and evening, and we were just driving around like crazy. I mean, how we didn't get hurt or hit some ice or something is beyond me. But I will say I had so much fun. Like, literally so much fun. I was scared at the same time because I've always been someone who I have a really hard time not following certain rules, especially like things that are about safety. I've always been a big stickler for those. I don't know why. I just I think it's my neurospicy brain. I just certain things are there to keep you safe, and even though we were jumping snowbanks at the time or speeding like crazy, I was having fun. I was certainly enjoying myself, but also there was that voice in the back of my head like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, this is horrible, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Yeah, so there's this one part, we jumped the snowbank, but earlier in the day, I talk about how Zach drove and we got stuck in a snowbank, which I guess is why when Michael got his car, we jumped another one and actually did it. So, boys, teenagers, I don't know. I mean, and at the time I was really upset with my mom, who wouldn't let me, go to the movies or go sledding or go hiking. And I mean, I still am like, what the hell? Because I wasn't a promiscuous girl at that time. And these were legitimately my friends. None of them, like, other than like trying to hold my hand or like stand next to me or like whatever. None of these boys ever tried anything that never ever ever ever. Even when they wanted to, they were still very respectful. And I don't know if that's because they were scared, because I think not all teenage boys are confident, just like all teenage girls are not confident. I think things are new, experiences are new, feelings are new, and a lot of kids, try to fake that it's not scary, but the reality is it is scary. And so yeah, these boys were my friends, and we had a huge hill in town. We don't anymore. It was developed years and years and years and years ago. But at the time, and when we were growing up, there was this hill that was known for sledding, and it was awesome. It was so big. It was called Kmart Hill, and it was because it was across from Kmart. So, but yeah, it was awesome, and I'm sad that my parents didn't let me go, because who didn't like sledding? And especially like as a teenager, I'm sure that would have been, lots and lots of fun. And like even at that point, like I get it. Again, I get where she was coming from as a parent. But like it was completely innocent. We really did just want to go sledding. We weren't into drugs at that time, or at least I wasn't. I don't know if they were. I seriously don't think most of them were, if any. And if they were at that time, it was probably just pot. But yeah, it was super innocent. We really just wanted to go sledding. But I do understand my mom, kind of. Doesn't excuse it, because I still wish she had let me go. Hiking too. We live in a pretty rural area, or it used to be rural, and we have a lot of mountains and such around. And we definitely, like, hiking was a normal thing. If you've listened to the show before, or if you have read the book, you know of the Overflow, which was a normal party spot for us, and it was in the woods. Like, we would hike to it. We had other party spots that were also, like, in nature. We had the pit, which was just kind of a field actually it was behind Kim's house, to be honest with you. Yeah, so it was kind of just a field through some woods. Like, you'd walk through some woods and then you'd be in a field, and we would just party in there. And then there was the cove, which was like behind, I don't even know what it was behind. It was behind some business, and it was like sand. Like, it was like a marshy sand dune woodsy area, and just, we'd go out there and bring a keg and have fun. But at this time in my life, I was not drinking, I was not into drugs, I didn't do that stuff, so it was very 100% innocent. Again, I understand she didn't want her teenage daughter going into the woods with this handful of boys by herself. I get it. But also, again, they were our friends. They were my friends. We had been friends for years. Most of them, I think one or two of them were new. But like, literally knew these people forever. And it's just, it says a lot about what my mom thought about my friends. And I guess me, but at that time I was still super innocent. I was still untouched. So So, by drugs or by people. So, and yeah, I guess like the movie's probably the same thing because there's always that, ooh, what they did at the movies in the dark. Nah, nah, nah. But again, like we literally just wanted to go watch a movie. um so like I said, I mean, I do understand her perspective. I do get it, but also it was unwarranted with who I was and who my friends were. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say now that like it's annoying that she didn't let us go or let me go, especially knowing how many people were abused, and like literally I don't think any I mean, if I think about how many girls I know that were sexually assaulted, it's most of them that we went to school with, that I was friends with, most of them, if not all of them. And so I get it. I get where she was coming from. But at the same time, it was kind of insulting just because, like, did you not trust my instincts? Did you not trust, you know, my process of picking people to be around? I mean, no, I guess she didn't. Or more like she didn't trust them. And again, and I can't stress this enough, I get it now. But at the time, and even now a little bit, I'm like, oh, these are experiences that I never got to have, like these times of going out, because the fun and the going out with your friends is what you remember about your teenage life. That's the stuff that sticks. And like the time that I did spend with them that weekend, I literally can remember, pretty much all the details, like what people were wearing, who was sitting where, what, all of this stuff, like, because it was so impactful, because it was so fun. Like, it was fun. I literally don't know how else to talk about it. Like, it made my brain light up, made my face light up, it made my soul light up. And I do regret not taking more advantage of being a kid and just doing the things. I was too cautious, and my parents were too cautious. But yeah, so, and yeah, the end of it where my uncle talks about me living with them, he did get the job, I assume, because I did end up moving in with them. Not for a while. It wasn't until, what was it, my senior year? Yeah, the beginning of my senior year. I think it was in October. Yeah, because, I moved out and then immediately went and got my tongue pierced. Like, I moved out of my parents' house and was just like, you know what I should do? I should go get my tongue pierced. And yeah, I did. Me and one of my friends and another one of our friends, we actually got the boys to bring us to this place, a couple towns over. It's like a small city, not a real city, but like a smallish city. And we go to this guy, and like tongue piercing back then was like, it was just starting to be a thing. It wasn't like body piercing. Now you could like go pretty much to any tattoo parlor and get it done. We specifically had to find someone that would do it. So we did. We go to this town, and it's at night. It's like 7-8 o'clock at night. It's already dark because it's like fall, so it's already starting to get dark. And we go and we get into this small little tattoo shop, and it's hot. It's the thing that I remember so very clearly, that it was like stifling hot. And we walk in, the three of us girls, all bubbly and annoying, I'm sure, and we're like, oh, we've got appointments. And the woman who's there, she's like, oh, he stepped out, he'll be back soon, just sit down and wait. So we're sitting there and waiting, and then this man, who in my memory was like 10 feet tall and just this gigantic man, comes lumbering in, looks at us, and he was like this biker dude, like long hair, ponytail, tattoos, earrings, leather, just all of it. And he comes in, he's like, looks at us, and he goes, who's the first victim? And we were like, nah. Which, I was not the first victim. I was actually the last victim. Because, oh my God. But yeah, it was scary, to be honest. All three of us were like, oh no. The boys went outside and waited, and I watched as my friend got her tongue pierced, and it looked horrible and horrendous, like clamp on the tongue, pulling it out of her face, this giant needle. It was like, oh my God. So I actually ended up going outside with the boys, watching through the window. And so she's done, and then our other friend gets in the chair and he does her belly button. And then it's my turn, and I go in and he does the clamp, which hurt so bad. Like, the clamping of the tongue and the pulling it out of your mouth was just, it was the fucking worst. Like, legit. And yeah, he pierced my tongue. I drooled a lot, which my friend was like, yeah, you drooled a lot. And I'm like, well, dude, this guy was like pulling my tongue out of my face. I couldn't swallow it. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry. Like, yeah, so, we got that done, and then we had my friend that got her tongue pierced. We actually, she slept over my grams, because I lived at my grandma's house at that time, because I had just moved out, my parents, and we had our Listerine to like wash our mouths after every cigarette, every drink, every food item. That was the thing. After you get your tongue done, any of the things you do with your mouth, you swish with the Listerine to clean out the bacteria so you don't get a infection, right? So also your tongue swells like double the size of it normally. Like, it gets huge. We're like talking like this. We were trying to eat, so we were taking like, I remember specifically the two of us eating bagels, and we would like rip off a tiny little piece of bagel and shove it to the side in the back of our mouth and like try to like chew it with a molar and then like kind of like like work it down our throat because everything was just so swollen and gross. We had like Kraft macaroni and cheese and like one noodle at a time, just shove it in the back of our mouth and like swallow it like a bird trying to like swallow a fish. It was ridiculous. But yeah, and then we carried our Listerine around with us for like 2 weeks. It was ridiculous. But yeah. We did that. And then actually, it's funny because one of the girls, her cousin also got her tongue done a few months later. And she did not wash as much as she should with the Listerine. And she did things with her mouth that teenage girls do with their mouths. It got very gross and infected and pussy and bad. And I think about that sometimes, like, oh, like, you couldn't held out, ma'am, or told your sir that he had to hold out for a while. Like, oh my God. But yeah, come to find out a few months later, the guy that pierced our tongue was arrested for murder. He murdered a girl, who was older. I guess she was a woman, in her 20s. He murdered a woman from our town. And like I said, his shop was not in our town. But he murdered a girl from our town for some gang thing, biker gang thing, and cut her head off. And I don't know if it's true or if it was just a rumor, but I mean, as far as I know, it's true. They found her head under the floorboards of that tattoo parlor. And she was there when we were there. And he was asking, who's the next victim? And it's always oh my God. We went to this place, just us girls and these boys. And we were kids, basically, we were freaking 17. So illegal for him to do it to begin with, but he just let us sign a waiver. And I mean, clearly the law didn't matter because he had a lady's head under the floorboards. We were walking on this poor woman's head, and I just, oh my God. It's so horrible. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still in jail. That was petrifying to hear. Wow. So yeah, I guess it's gonna kind of do it for this episode. Just me babbling and rambling about back in the day and, whatnot. So yeah, that was the 90s. But I am glad I got to address the whole Kim thing, because I just, I don't know. People, listen to your friends and listen to what they're saying and listen to what they're not saying. And don't just sit idly by if you know someone's being hurt. Say something. Say something. Say something to them. Just talk to them. Ask if they need anything, if they need help, if there's anything you can do. Just don't stay silent, because I stayed silent, and it's 30 plus years later and I still feel bad about it. I still carry that ghost and that guilt. She's living her best life. She's having a great time now, and hopefully doesn't carry that time with her. But I do, because the signs are there and I ignored them, and I feel horrible about it. I still feel horrible about it. And yeah, I probably will forever, to be honest with you, because yeah. So thanks for coming with me on this journey today. It was something disorganized and just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. But yeah, just be good to one another, just be kind. Be kind. That's how I'm gonna end it, I guess. Thank you for joining me today for this hodgepodge of just babble that was this episode of Naive in the 90s, the podcast. I hope you come back in 2 weeks for a new one on who knows what I'll be babbling about. Make sure to follow so you don't miss it. For questions, comments, feedback, or contributions to the conversation, send me a message at naiveinthe90s@gmail.com or connect with me on social media with the handle @naiveinthe90s. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Threads. And of course, don't forget to grab your copy of Naive in the 90s, the creative nonfiction book based on real-life diaries from the early and mid-90s. Follow along as a high schooler tries to navigate life, friends, relationships, and of course, the raddest era ever. And if you have read it and enjoyed the book, please make sure to leave a review. Each and every one truly helps. Thank you again for joining. Hope to see you next time. Peace and love, my dudes.